In the last lesson, we learned a structured approach to triaging round-the-clock reactive work requests. But even when you've mastered triaging, there's still that one pebble that needs addressing: the urgent request. Sometimes an exec sends you a text asking you to look into something ASAP. Other times there's a technological issue or PR crisis that requires immediate attention. It's a never-ending saga of fire drills and flash floods. And because marketing usually controls the channels and touch points that reach users the fastest, those urgent requests tend to land on the marketing leader. What's more, when you've consistently executed urgent requests quickly in the past, stakeholders tend to assume the work is easy. The reality is often quite the opposite. In fact, it's often low-scale, laborious, and saddled with what Kieran calls a high degree of coordination tax. In short, not all urgent requests are actually urgent. It's just a label. And as a marketing leader, it's best to equip yourself with an assessment or vetting process to decipher which are the true urgent requests and which are the wolves dressed in sheepskin. Let's start by setting a clear definition of what urgent work is. Urgent work addresses an immediate problem or event that, if left unresolved, would drive significant negative impact on key business outcomes. PR crises are a good example of this. If an influencer you work with closely does something that attracts negative media attention, that could become a PR crisis for you as a sponsor of that individual. While their actions and the media backlash might not directly impact a marketing OKR, the association between you and the influencer could drive an impact on business outcomes, like people boycotting your brand. With that in mind, you'll want to move quickly to address the issue. One action item might be to end the partnership with that individual and send an email addressing the issue to your customer base in hopes of minimizing impact. Second, urgent work addresses an immediate problem or event that, if left unresolved, puts your ability to hit OKR targets at risk. Advertising platform outages are a classic example of this. Nicole Mattern, VP of Growth at Calibrate, puts it this way: anyone who's advertising on Facebook will remember when it went out in October of 2021. Facebook's advertising was significant to Calibrate's marketing strategy, so this 7-hour outage put their ability to hit acquisition OKRs at risk. The marketing team had to quickly pivot and leverage other channels to reach their customers. While this outage was especially memorable due to its duration, shorter glitches can also put OKRs and key business outcomes at risk. Finally, urgent work addresses an immediate problem or event that, if not acted on immediately, would cause the business to miss out on a significant upside. Let's use a hypothetical example for FanDuel. Part of growing the sports betting product is ensuring that sports betting gets legalized in new states. Let's imagine FanDuel's marketing team just found out that the legislature in a particular state is voting on legalizing sports betting next week. FanDuel's marketing leader gets an urgent request to send an email to customers in that state to gather signatures in support of legalization. FanDuel's marketing team would likely choose to do this for a few reasons. For one, it's timely. The work won't have an impact if they do it later. And while the exact impact of the work isn't certain, it's relatively low lift, and it supports an important initiative that could drive a significant upside for the business, potentially unlocking a new sports betting market that will bring new customers and new revenue. If the legislature votes no, FanDuel loses out on new customers and revenue from that state, putting their new user growth North Star at risk. So, if the work is actually urgent, then it should go into the do bucket. But it's your job to document and communicate the implications of that decision to both your team and key stakeholders. Now let's look at some key characteristics of what urgent work is not. Urgent work is not deemed urgent solely because of who it came from or how you received it. For example, you might receive a direct Slack message text or phone call from an exec team member that says something along the lines of, "My friend was trying to make a purchase and it didn't go through. Something must be wrong with the purchase flow. Can you look into it?" The natural, immediate response is probably an inner voice saying, "She texted me. It must be urgent." But the reality may be that the exec was working on her phone while on the go, and texting felt like the easiest way to communicate. Urgent work is also not a request that is simply blasted to senior marketing leaders or the entire marketing org. Let's say a junior employee is looking for marketing support for an upcoming feature launch and sends an email to the entire marketing org. The gut reaction might be, if they're sending it to everyone, including senior leadership, it must be important. But the reality might be the junior employee wasn't sure who to ask, so they cast a wide net in hopes of reaching the right person. And urgent work does not have a long timeline. Sometimes work gets mislabeled as urgent because the person making the request has an incorrect understanding that there is a tight timeline. For instance, the CEO gets wind of a big PR opportunity with a major publication and wants to quickly get a team together to collect all the details and data together for the story. But upon further exploration, the story actually wouldn't be published for at least a few months, giving you plenty of time to work on it without displacing other priorities. If any of these scenarios reveal themselves in your day-to-day, you can confidently unlabel them as urgent and place them into one of your 3 buckets we learned about in the last lesson: do, explore, or don't do. Kieran's learned this the hard way. He says, "I have at times had to force a pause in urgent work in order to gather additional information, only to find it wasn't as urgent as it was made to seem. My advice is to assess the situation preemptively instead of rushing into it without question." A key takeaway here is that just because something is labeled urgent, it doesn't mean you should immediately assume that it really is. This wraps up our section on managing marketing work. In the next section, we'll deep dive into building your marketing operating rhythm.